it's funny you mentioned Palansky, Paul, because one interesting question is, will the BBC side with Polanski or Farage? Because there is, to steelman the argument, there is a case that like they do put Farage on a lot. Do they in some way want to sort of welcome him into the regime, or is he just there because they had to have someone to look impartial and he's good TV? Probably that.
So he's the only opposition voice, Nick.
Yeah,
Kelly Badenoch is not wanting to speak. She's still in her 2 years hiatus.
Well, true. I mean, over the years when they've had him on, it's like the only guy that's pro-Brexit and he's good on telly. Now, more recently, if you want to get conspiratorial, you can say there's been a sort of warming of the regime towards, and the regime here, I mean, basically the whole blob that runs our country, with in this case the media. But you could argue they've warmed up to Farage. And one question is, who will they side? It's always clear who they side with. It's clear they didn't like Corbyn. It's clear they like Starmer. They like Blair. They didn't really, they accepted May for the reasons I've stated. Now, will they like Farage more than Polanski? This is my question, because Polanski, on one level, he's like a complete communist nutcase. But also, is he just actually another neo-lib in different clothing? We sort of saw it with Mamdani. Mamdani comes in and he's talking like an old school communist. You look at some of the things he's actually doing and you think, actually, he's just going to be another establishment guy who just pretends to be this. A bit like Obama. He'll do some things, but not much. But would the BBC prefer, though, a Farage over a Polanski? I mean, Farage, really, he's going to be quite moderate. He's going to be a free marketeer, Thatcherite. He's still in the mold of Blair, because Blair's in the mold of Thatcher and Farage in the mold of Thatcher. He's not that far out from a Tony Blair, really.
Not really.
Would they side with him more than they would?
The reason, of course, you see Nigel Farage
Palansky
is much like if you look at any panel, and I'll get to Palansky in a second. It's a great question there. But if you look at any panel on GB News, it's probably got 3 right-wingers and 1 left-winger to appease Ofcom. BBC only know left-wingers, so they're trying to do the converse, the opposite, with Nigel Farage. They're like, well, who the hell are we going to put in that spot? Because we don't know anyone. Who do they know? Well, I mean, you could ask Rupert Lowe, I guess, but they're not going to ask Rupert Lowe. But who else could they ask? Robert Jenrick? Well, yes, you could ask Robert Jenrick, but Nigel Farage is the most popular right-wing voice. So, of course, they speak to him. They have to. It's the go-to. It's like being a lefty on GB News. You can get plenty of work on GB News as a lefty if you come on and say the right things. Now, of course, Nigel Farage is not going on the BBC and saying the right things so that he can be the Ofcom fodder. He also has a lot to say and he's incredibly popular. What's going to become very interesting with Palansky is he's new and he's really shaken up the left of politics. So up until 6 weeks ago, or whatever it was, we had this massive burgeoning right-wing wave led by Nigel Farage, and there was no one to counter it because no one in Labour looked like they could do it. But it needed something special, and special has many meanings, Nick, but it needed something special. And along comes Zach Palansky, and he pulled the string, and out comes every batshit left-wing idea that anyone's ever had. And you just look at the leadership of the Green Party. You look at the leadership of the Green Party, and it's got one of these and one of those. None of them can form a cohesive thought, but they can get, again. It's pull the string and
they got the posh hot posh chick. I said the other day, posh chicks are either batshit crazy commies or they're literally married to Oswald Mosley. Those are the 2 options. Like, they're like the furthest right person you've ever seen. Oh yes, darling. Of course we should kill them all. What? And then, or they're just like the most open borders, chucking glue and paint on a Van Gogh. Those are the 2 options.
Saying that the majority of people coming from Eritrea and Afghanistan are lawyers and doctors.
Yeah.
And all that sort of stuff. Look, so Zach Palansky is going to be an important part of the rhetoric in the coming years. He absolutely is, in the same way that Nigel Farage is. What Zach's got going against him is he is a byproduct of the batshit stuff that's now moving towards the centre, like the Labour Party. He's a byproduct of that. He's a reaction to that. And people have had enough of that. What Zach hasn't figured out yet is that he's not converting anyone. He's just coalescing the Corbynites and those that are disenfranchised by Labour now. That's all he's doing. He's breaking up the left. What Farage is doing is he's not offering anything new in the world of politics at all if you scrutinise it. But he's offering something new in the world of our politics, in the world of the politics since 1990, since Margaret Thatcher stepped down. So he is offering something in living memory which is relatively new and hopeful, and that's why it's going to fall that way, Nick.
Interesting. Yeah. I mean, let's see. Polanski, funny thing with people like Polanski, they have an open goal on immigration to just say that it reduces wages and it's evil big corporations, but they can't do it. They have to back the big corporations because they're basically the sort of modern woke batshit left rather than the actual principle left. I always think that's an open goal for them, but they cannot take it. I just thought I'd share two more, then we've got to go. This is funny because it's Hal Cruttenden from the world of comedy. Kezia here says, I'm an owner of a small business. Another reason why I'm voting for Reform UK. And Hal said, I imagine the business makes white pointy hoods. This is where we are. And I know it's a joke, a very poor joke, but I just think the mentality behind that joke, and I said, believing small businesses should face fewer regulations, which often give an unfair advantage to big corporations, means you are literally the Ku Klux Klan. Sadly, this is how most UK comedians think, though think is extremely generous. I mean, I thought it was so pathetic. It's like, really, how like small business reform Thatcher, it just doesn't even, it's just so ridiculous. You think they're the Ku Klux? It's just like, I understand the joke, but the ethos behind the joke is so absurd. And while we're on this race and stuff, I just thought I'd share this, which we have to remember about the BBC. Now, this came from a Toby Young piece, actually, from 2018 in The Spectator, but it's something I remembered. It's always stayed with me, so that I searched it and found it very easy. And this is that Cassian Harrison, the editor of BBC Four, told the Edinburgh International Television Festival last week, this is at the time, 2018, that no one wants to watch white men explaining stuff on TV anymore. There's a mode of programming that involves a presenter, this is quoting now, usually white, middle-aged and male, standing on a hill telling you like it is, he said. We all recognize the era of that has passed. So I just said, quite hard to justify the license fee when the BBC is engaged in a race war against you. 3.3 thousand currently likes. So we have to remember that. It's like, you're saying, oh, we're this neutral thing, we're impartial, everyone should pay for us. By the way, screw white men. Like it can't work in this woke era, in this polarized era. It can't work. That said, if we want to keep it and see if we could take it over, but when you see the hysteria of like Robbie Gibb, like one vaguely conservative person, you see that of course it can never really be rescued. Probably, ideally, you'd rescue it and have some base people running it, or at least normal people. But that seems unlikely. Therefore, it seems inevitable it'll have to be scrapped or go to a license fee model. But it's not one mistake. It's who the BBC are. This Trump thing is just who they are. They can't help it. And as we see from all the people defending it, everyone knows which side their bread is buttered on. And I don't even want the BBC to be right-wing. I just want it to be impartial. Like X, we just wanted free speech, but that was deemed far right. And just if someone like even Robbie Gibb, even as moderate as him, somehow took over the BBC, you'd have them all going mad saying this is terrible, shut down the BBC. They'd suddenly hate the BBC.
Oh, yeah.
It wouldn't matter that it was our BBC and Auntie and all this. It'd just be like, it's become corrupt. See how quickly they loved X, then they hated X. We know who these people are.
They wouldn't be the best of society then, would they?
No, they'd be the worst.
It'd be
worst
all the same people with one different person in charge, but all of a sudden they wouldn't be the best in society.
I know.
And it's all you need to know. I've not heard anyone from the right saying that it's entire. Well, I've had lots of things said on the right, but one thing I've heard from the left is they keep making the argument that it's not how they want it to look. The argument on the right isn't we want it to look this way. It's you keep telling us it looks this way and it doesn't. And then the left's argument to that to try and justify it in some way is, well, it should look this way. And we're like, why should it look that way? Oh, look, I think you made an excellent point there. And I think there should be more discussion about that. Open it up like X. That's all Elon Musk did, by the way. He just went, oh, by the way, I'm just going to take all the bans away from the left, from the right-leaning voices. And all of a sudden, there's this equilibrium. In fact, it tilts a little bit right. Oh, because the vast majority of society, by the way, are centre right.
Yes, and if you let people speak freely, they will say things that you don't like. And yeah, it broke out of that little blue sky bubble, and now everyone went into blue sky, and you saw what that is—a just disgusting.
I know. I've never
struggle
seen
session.
I've never seen a tweet from the left saying that blue sky is too left wing, ever.
Right.
Never.
Right.
It's never. They're blind. It's a total blind spot. If you and I went onto blue sky, I think and we went as ourselves under our name, I think we'd be asked to leave within half a minute.
Oh
And
yeah, oh yeah,
if we
absolutely.
did get to speak, that'd be the last time we spoke.
There's a handful of people on the left calling out this BBC thing. People like Aaron Bastani saying, "Look at some of these shocking things they've done." He had another edit that was really appalling, not the Trump one. It was a different one. A guy claimed that a woman questioned her about being from Israel and was being anti-Semitic, and she wasn't at all. They have the recording and they prove it. Stuff like that always going on. And he that's perhaps a lefty angle that he wanted to use because that was sort of used against the BBC in the Corbyn era. But he's one of the few lefties I've heard actually critique this. But yeah, others all just defending it and lying about it.